is behind you, the old days. That was good before they had a camera. People used to draw people and forests and scenes, but when the camera came along, it was no longer necessary. But you still have artists. And art in the future will not be a guy drawing you or painting a picture of flowers, because that can be done with a camera. Art of the future will be invention, things that don't exist. You draw new cities, new buildings that don't exist to show people things. But when you do that, it's not necessary today. This shit above the bed here is claustrophobic, but they want you to feel like a king. So it's called a king hotel. And they put this shit, which is unsanitary and unnecessary. But you can get caught to like anything. I think I told you why gypsies steal, didn't I?
No.
I asked gypsies, why do you steal? And they said to me, didn't you know? I said, of course not. I said, no. They said, well, just before Christ was crucified, nailed to the cross, the gypsies stole the pegs, and they were given the right to steal. That's what the head of the gypsies told me. Sounds good. So I think if you tell kids, you don't die when you're shot, you go right to heaven, you're with the Father. So I always notice that Christians, like if you want to trip around the world by boat and airplane, I say, gee, that's wonderful. When will you be back? It's all about 2 years from now. But I think it's wonderful. Now, if you really believe in God and that your son got run over by a Mack truck, he's now with God and the angels, what are you crying for? If you really believe in God, you know what I mean? If he dies, your father dies, he's with God. Now he's sitting there and he's got no problems anymore. You should feel wonderful, celebrate. But they're weeping because they see him lowered into the ground and they don't feel that good about it. And maybe he doesn't go there. But I'm trying to tell you, if you really believed in God, you wouldn't cry. If your son or father died or husband, if he's with the Father. I say Jesus with the Father now. If God sent his son down to the earth to teach people things, and they crucified him, I think God is a horse's ass for sending his son down there. If he knows everything, it means he willingly sent his son to be crucified. Then he's a son of a bitch. So I can't accept any concept of God. They don't make sense to me. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you know everything, you send your son down and they crucify him and he suffers. And he looks up, he says, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Jesus really believed Father would intervene. That's why he said that. So even Jesus doubted. Read your Bible, it says so in the Bible. It's not Fresco saying that. So the reasons I gave up religion, because it made absolutely no sense. Their concepts of God were just like themselves, dopes, uneducated people, guessing what heaven is like. And also God lived up in the clouds, and they always point up, and the clouds are all around the world. And they still say today, I'll see you at sunrise. There's no such thing. The sun does not rise. The earth rotates in that direction. And they still say, I'll see you at sunrise. We have so many old words in the world today, because even the language, German, goes way back, and they didn't have knowledge then. So our language is crippling. All languages are old, except in electronics, computers, the language is evolving. In a computer, if you have a lot of shit you don't use, you can delete it. You can press delete. But you can't do that with a human brain. If you brought up to hate Mexicans, you can't press delete. Mexicans are just like any other people, only they're brought up in a different environment. You can't delete all the shit you learned as a kid, which is unfortunate. I think in the future, man will be able to do that. He'll be able to delete areas of the brain. And then there's the metaphysician who believes that man is something more than the sum of his parts. He's something special. He's aware, he has conscience, he has sensitivity, only if he's brought up to have it. Do you understand that? Otherwise they'll kill each other. So he's not, he's made that way. So the metaphysician believes that the mind is not material, it's spiritual. The brain may be material, but the mind, they say, what is mind? I want to tell you what mind is. Mind is the electrical circuitry in the brain. And that circuitry is not given by God, because if your mother says, stay away from Filipinos, that circuitry builds up. So it's not spiritual. Kill that goddamn crowd, that's in the brain too, through military training. Do you know what I mean? Or kill a Swede. If the brain was ethereal and spiritual, it would not store that stuff. Now they also find out if you get a tumor in the visual hemispheres in the back of the brain, you can no longer see. And if you get a tumor in this area, you can't hear. Or if you get a tumor in the taste buds, you can't taste. So it must mean the brain is electrical and material. That the brain doesn't, after you die, doesn't go off into heaven to be one with God. Because let me tell you why there's no heaven. If you're a tailor and you press clothing all your life, he's a grocery store manager. All he does is he orders groceries. What do you do in heaven? Do you order groceries? And if you met him in heaven, he's now a spiritual being. Meaning he no longer talks about groceries, and you no longer talk about pressing clothing, then that's not you. If you go to heaven, you should know the guy was a tailor, this guy was a butcher, this guy was an airline pilot. Well, in heaven, they're all, God bless you, wonderful to see you, everybody gets along. But imagine, say, you live 12,000 years in heaven. Don't forget, you live forever there. And if a guy comes over and says, you know, my daughter-in-law's children just had another baby on her. He says, so what? Have you heard that story all your life, for thousands of years? If you live to be 3,000 years old on earth, and somebody says, I got an engagement ring, say, fuck you, I've heard that story. There's nothing new. Do you understand? If you live to 12,000 years old, and the guy says, I just got a new car, well, fuck you. What's new? He can't tell you anything. You understand? A little baby says, I want a balloon. You heard that for 40,000 years. It's not interesting. Heaven would be the most boring place in the world. Do you understand that? Now, if God is 40 million years old, the guy says, my daughter just had another child of God. He says, fuck you. Because it's not interesting. Do you understand? Right. If you don't understand me, you're going to suffer. So normal people just live long enough to say, how nice. But if you live to be that long in heaven, what the hell do you do for 40,000 years up there? After you're 4 million years old, what do you do? God is infinite. He lived forever. You think he listens to every fucking prayer of every little individual? He says, I know what you want. I don't have to listen to your prayers. And people say he knows everything. Well, what the hell are you talking to him for? Why do you say my kids are sick? I'd like them to get well. God says, yeah, I looked at your kids. They are sick. I'll help them get well. Do you understand? And my mother really believes every star is a dead person. Every star that you see in heaven is for a person that died on earth. I think I told you about Mexico, where every floor was at a different height, every room. So I said, why? Because the devil doesn't like to walk up or down stairs. He likes everything level. So that's what they really believe that with a straight face. And the natives on the islands believe volcano gets angry. That's why it shakes the earth. It's angry. They really believe that. They say it with a straight face, even tears. And they say, well, what if a person's sincere? We don't want sincere people. We want people with knowledge. They are sincerely ignorant. And the witch doctor tells you to throw your brother-in-law in the volcano to quiet it down. If it doesn't work, you throw your sister-in-law in. If that doesn't work, you never throw the witch doctor in or the king. Always other people. There are lots of people to sacrifice. And that's what the war industry is. Get all those kids, get out there and fighting for us. If kids fight for the preservation of Germany or the United States, they should have shares in all the German companies. Do you understand that? Every doctor that didn't go to war owes their survival to you because you won the war for them. So all people ought to own the earth since they fight for the king. They should be taking care of the king when they get back if they're injured. In the old days they never were. Now they are, to a limited extent. I don't know about German war veterans, but they have to pay reparations debt to England, France, US, Germany. Has to pay. And then if America lost war, they had to pay to Germany. That's no way to do it.
Is there anything else on the list?
Not on the list. Can I ask a question that I just thought of? Today, movies, when movies are made, there are hundreds of people working on them. Do you think this will be done like that in a
They
resource-based
check
economy?
the present day values. And the movie is about present day
that's
values. Romantic movie, a guy meets a girl and they fall in love. And there's another guy that loves the same girl and they get in a fight. But the movies are always the same. They're based on the values of people. If you make a movie about American Indians, they'll go see it and they enjoy it. If you make a movie about gypsies, they would enjoy it. But the movies have to be made in terms of existing values. Otherwise, people can't identify with a movie. If you made a movie about God and say he was about 20 million years old now, he doesn't want to hear a fucking thing from you, the movie would be